Hey, friends, I'm Otis Gibbs, and this is my buddy Steve Poltz. He's going to tell a story about writing a song with Jewel that changed both of their lives forever.
What's crazy is you don't know where a song, what I don't even understand what a hit song is and what makes a hit song. Because when I was writing with Jewel, and that was fun because when we were writing together back then, it was just for fun. And that's the true beauty of music. When you're writing for fun and you're not trying to write a hit, you're just writing we were two innocent kids writing songs and just having fun and writing the most silly, stupid songs. And I just loved some of the songs, like Food Stamp Love, I loved. And it was I like the whole idea that your lover is doling out food for you like you're on a government assistance program. And so the whole chorus was, I'm sick of your food stamp love. I wish I could find this song. Jewel has all this stuff archived. She has an archivist, so I'm gonna ask the guy for it. And I thought, Food Stamp Love's a hit. And then we wrote on that same trip, You Were Meant for Me, which I was like, that's just another song. And then when we were writing You Were Meant for Me, I remember Jewel goes, we're not gonna Pultzerize this one. This is a good one. And so Pultzerize became this verb for how to ruin a song, which is do a co-write with me and I will say the most idiotic line. And I'm not doing it to shock the other person. I'm doing it just because I love wordplay. And if it makes me laugh, I'm like, oh, this is cool. Because this all goes back to when I was a kid. And on the radio, I heard, hello, Mata, hello, Fada, here I am at Camp Granada. And I was like, this is the greatest song ever. Why aren't all songs like this? And then when I heard Dead Skunk in the Middle of the Road, oh, dude, come on. You got your dead rabbit and your two dead dogs. You know, all that stuff. Got your dead skunk in the middle of the road. The banjo, everything about it. It was like, I wanted a song where I heard it and it killed me. And so when the Rugburns first came out, we had a couple funny songs, but Herb Cohen and everybody was like, we got to keep, we want to make this commercial, which I understand now because it becomes a novelty song, they call it. And my favorite thing to listen to was Dr. Demento. And so the Rugburns got played on Dr. Demento. And to me, that's the pinnacle of I could have ended my career then being on the Dr. Demento show. He played Hitchhiker Joe, and he loved that song. He goes, this is a band called the Rugburns, Hitchhiker Joe. And that song got played on 91X. It was about a cannibalistic hitchhiker that picks people up and eats them. And I wrote it with this buddy of mine. And so for me to have been on that and to have played and gotten on the Dr. Demento show, and I remember the exact moment it was played too, and it went on after Shaving Cream, the song, Shaving Cream, shave. And you think he's gonna say shit every time, but he goes, and I went to a big shaving cream. It was so funny. And then Hitchhiker Joe would come on, Dead Skunk in the Middle of the Road, all these cool songs. And so writing with Jewel on You Were Meant for Me, she said, we're not gonna Pultzerize this song. She goes, this is a really good song. And I was like, it is? I didn't know. And then we're driving back from Mexico after writing it on a drug bust. We ended up with these Mexican federales, which is a whole nother story. I mean, the pictures are on the internet if you type in Jewel drug bust photos. We ended up like with all this weed and these Mexican federales, and they gave me a kilo of the weed. And we wrote You Were Meant for Me on that trip. And when we were driving back, You Were Meant for Me was written on these napkins. It blew out of the window. And she goes, you were meant for me. We got to get it. And we didn't have iPhones where you taking pictures of the words or type in a minute. It was just written on a napkin. And it was like the melody was just in our heads. It was like that Sean Connery movie, The Rock. And he goes, the blueprints are all in my head. That was like the song, You Were Meant for Me. We knew the melody, but we didn't have the words. And she goes, turn around, we gotta get it. And I was like, no, we got Food Stamp Love. And she goes, turn around, we need this song. And little did I know, this was like ignoring the lottery ticket. Thank God she yelled at me. And so I was like, fine. So I turn around and we get the song, and it becomes this hit. Like, and we give all the songs to Atlantic Records. She got signed by Danny Goldberg, and Danny Goldberg, and then they hear these songs. And I remember I was with her in a meeting. I was like, what about Food Stamp Love? What about Food Stamp Love? And I was so serious. Dude, this should be in, like, if they ever made a documentary of the biggest idiot in the world, like some Steve Martin, like The Jerk, I need that role. When I'm going, what about Food Stamp Love? And they looked at me and they go, not only is it not going on the record, we never want to hear it again. Like, they were just like, and I remember it crushed my soul. And they didn't say it to be funny, like, no. And then Jewel was like, I'm glad we didn't Poltzerize You Were Meant For Me. Like, that became this whole thing. So I'm lucky I met her and then I wrote it with her, because it would not, number one, had I sang it, it would have never been a hit. But everything in life is timing. Radio, music. People don't even think of this, the average punter that's out there that grew up on the radio like we did. It's timing. And everybody had finally gotten tired of grunge. When Kurt Cobain, when Nirvana came out, it turned the music industry upside down. I'll never forget the first time I heard Nevermind. And I just freaked. I heard an advanced copy of it. And I was like, oh my God. The production, everything about it, the voice. And then eventually you had, Candlebox and Collective Soul and more kind of sort of grunge light bands. And everybody was tired of all these males yelling about shit. And then it became Sarah McLachlan, Paula Cole, Joan Osborne, Lisa Loeb, Sheryl Crow, Jewel, and Lilith Fair, and all this stuff. And people's ears were tired of grunge. And for a while, women were a hot commodity. White folk singing women, kind of acoustic guitar, became everywhere. It was crazy. And I just happened to be a recipient of good timing and luck that I met Jewel, and that she didn't let me Poltzerize the song. And also, because of that song, we didn't know who was going to sing it. And when we crossed the border, we went to La Posta taco shop, because it was like 1 a.m. And there was like these prostitutes that would hang out at the taco shop, because it's 1 a.m. and dudes would drive by to pick up a prostitute, and there was drug dealers. It was kind of a seedy area. But you could always get food there. It was 24-hour taco shop. So we had come back from writing You Were Meant For Me, and we had sand all over us and surfboards. And I get out of the car and I go up to order 6 rolled tacos with guacamole and a bean burrito. And we're eating them, and there's these hookers there, and they start talking to us. And they go, what are you guys, hippies? And we go, I guess so. And they go, what do you do? And we go, we sing songs. So we start talking to them. What do you sing? Sing us a song. And I go, all right. So I go into the car and get out into the van and get out a guitar, and I sit there. We're sitting with like 4 hookers around us and a drug dealer. It was like really cool. And we're eating tacos, and they go, sing us your newest song. So I go, oh, should we sing them Food Stamp Love? And Jewel goes, no, let's sing You Were Meant For Me. I go, okay. So if you think of time, space, continuum, this string, You Were Meant For Me, this was the first focus group, because we had just written it. Now, the song has been ubiquitous, and people of a certain era will know it. Younger TikTok kids won't as well. They might know the chorus, but there's an era, there's an age group that if I play that song now, they're like, it's almost a Pavlovian response. It brings them back to a time, 1994. And so we sing the song for the prostitutes and the drug dealers. And I go, tell us who should sing it. And I sang it first, and then Jewel sang it. So after I sang it, they clapped. Then Jewel sang it. They clapped. And then I go, tell us who should sing it. And they go, we're going to go over here and deliberate, and we'll get back to you. And it was a quick verdict, so I knew it was probably bad for me. And then I go, have you reached a decision? She goes, yes, we have, Your Honor. And she looks at Jewel and she goes, honey, you sing that. That white boy can't sing. honey, you do that song. That white boy can't sing. And then she ended up taking it to them, and it became a hit, which I still don't understand how that even happened, but it did. And it went into the stratosphere and sold millions of records, millions.
It was everywhere.
And I was in the video with her. And I was in the Rugburns at the time, and we had a certain credibility as these wild rapscallions, you know, drunk, playing, I don't know if you'd call it punk rock, but I'd call it more punky folk, Smothers Brothers, Zappa-esque, everything kind of mixed in. And we had this reputation, we were wild, and then all of a sudden people are watching MTV, and I didn't know the song was gonna blow up, and I'm everywhere because I'm in the video with her, and I'm not wearing a shirt. Like, they're just saying, take off your shirt, come up from behind her like this, and blah, blah, blah.
The director said that?
Yeah, and so like the director's telling me what to do, I'm thinking, nobody's ever gonna see this. Dude, everywhere I went, people would go, and in 1995, I guess, they were like, that's a dude from the Jewel video. Like, it was unmistakable. So I was the dude in the Jewel video, and then I got a solo record deal because that hit. And I could have done so much more with that record deal. Like, I tell people now, I counsel younger people when they get a record deal. I don't try to become overboard with it, but if they ask me, I always say to them, you get one shot usually, like where you get a real powerful group around you that can boost you into the stratosphere. Play ball with them once just to see what happens. Like, I'm not saying sacrifice your whole moral compass or whatever. I'm just saying don't be obstinate to any suggestions. Like, they had suggestions for me, and I just thought, you don't tell me what to do. Like, I just had this attitude. And I'm not saying that you get this attitude, or at least I can only speak for me, where I was like, I remember they had this guy, Danny Korchmar. So Danny Korchmar was with James Taylor back in the day. He was in the Flying Machine. And so James Taylor has this song, Fire and Rain, where he goes, sweet dreams and flying machines and pieces on the ground, on Fire and Rain. Just saying that line just makes me just weepy. I mean, I love, especially early James Taylor, the way I was talking about Diamonds in the Rough by John Prine. That's the way I feel about One Man Dog. That record to me is everything. So Danny Korchmar, you'd always hear James go, where's Cooch? He called him Cooch. And Cooch wrote this song, Honey, Don't Leave LA, that James did. And so I get this record deal with Mercury Records, and they start bringing all these producers to me. I'm talking really good producers, you know. I remember one day I had lunch with T-Bone Burnett and Joe Henry. And T-Bone wanted to oversee the record with Joe Henry producing it, but T-Bone would executive do it. And then they flew in Danny Korchmar. Like, they'd fly people into LA. Danny Korchmar came in, and I get to have lunch with him, and I'm just like, holy shit, this guy influenced my life. And then he proceeds to tell me that he would change my lyrics in my song Kicking Distance, a song that was never gonna be a hit anyways, but it's a cool song. And the chorus says, I'm within kicking distance of your heart, kicking distance of your heart, and I must warn others from you. And it's about a heartbreak. And there's a line in it where I say, what started so simple has turned into a pimple, unsightly and sore to the touch. And so we're eating lunch. He says, you know, we got to talk about your lyrics if I work with you. There's a song you have called Kicking Distance. And I was like, yes. And I could feel the hair on my neck stand up. And he goes, you have a line in there, what started so simple has turned into a pimple. I would want you to change that. And I was seething inside. Otis, may I call you Otis? I was seething. Like, it did not sit well with me. Now, the Steve of today at 64 years old, I don't give two shits. Oh, you don't like that? Okay, what else can we come up with? Like, I'm so much more amenable, but back then I was an immovable object, And there became a chasm between us, and we were immediately at loggerheads because of this one statement he said. Like, what a dickhead I am. Not him, me, for thinking that. Why can't I exhaust every possible angle to make the song the best it can be? I look at things differently now. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I will say I've become much more, I guess amenable is the word, to being able to change things.
I have opinions about this. At that moment in your life, you hadn't done that much. You didn't have that much creative output. So this becomes a huge percentage of everything you've ever done. And it just seems way too important. All these years later, it's a tiny piece of your creative output.
Yeah, that's it.
It doesn't seem like that much a big a deal now because, like, well, I think people are this way with gigs where they've only played so many gigs, so everyone is way too important, you know, or way too much pressure. Or that way with albums, songs. Once you've put out a lot of stuff, you're just easier going with all of it. And I think it's not that you don't care about it. You just realize, hey, I'm going to take a shot at this and do it this way. And it's not a big deal. Maybe that person is right. Sometimes they're wrong, and you're the person that has to live with if they were wrong. So it's hard, but it's something that's at least worth considering.
You just encapsulated it so well. Yes, like back in those days, my heroes were the Replacements. Like that's like my favorite band at the time, and I still love them. I love the book Trouble Boys by Bob Mayer. What a great book. And when I was making the record, One Left Shoe's the name of it, and there was a song called Silver Lining on it, and that was like the emphasis track. And I'm in the studio, and on drums I have Jim Keltner, I have Leland Sklar on bass. The producer I ended up picking was Stephen Souls, and Stephen Souls was in the Alpha Band with T-Bone Burnett. He was in Bob Dylan's Rolling Thunder Revue. He was in the movie Ronaldo and Clara. Like he checked all the boxes, and he had produced one of my favorite albums at the time called Peter Case, the Man with the Blue Postmodern Neo-Fragmented Guitar.
Love Peter.
Yeah, so all these boxes were checked. I'm not saying I made the bad choice in picking Stephen, but I could have picked a more commercial person. But Stephen put together a band. Leland Sklar, Dean Parks on guitar. Dude, the bass player, Leland Sklar, then he also got Jerry Sheff to play bass on certain songs. Jerry Sheff played with both Elvises, Elvis Presley and Elvis Costello. Sheff was in Elvis Presley's band, Jerry Sheff. And so Jerry Sheff came into play on the session, and he was deaf by then. I had a deaf bass player who just did it by feel, and it was amazing. Like, he could hardly hear. And I had the guy who was in Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers play keyboards, Ben Montench, and Stephen Souls producing it. And, dude, Dean Parks, what a guitar. Like, that guy. You think people in Nashville are good? Like, Dean Parks is like, I've never seen anything like this guy. So we're doing the session. Jim Keltner's on drums, and you don't even think it's the right take. Jim Keltner's like adjusting his headphones, moving this thing over here, grabbing something. The whole time he's playing, he's like, got a shaker going, and that's the take. You're like, it's playing with Jim Keltner was like being in a 1967 Cadillac, like Coupe de Ville in the back seat, and it's a little lowered and you're just cruising, playing just a little behind the beat, but perfect. Oh my God, that band was so good. And I just thought all this stuff was always gonna come to me. You know, a $200,000 budget, $100,000 video budget. And so we're making the record at Ocean Way. I'm sitting there. We're listening to Silver Lining, working on it. Jim Keltner's working on the drum parts. And who should come in? Don Was, and guess who he's producing? Paul Westerberg. And they both sit down, and me being, I'm like a huge Replacements fan. I can talk Replacements, I can talk Grateful Dead, and I can talk Replacements really well. Like, I know that, and John Prine, like, and Dylan. But there's things I'm fluent in, and the Replacements are like my heroes. And he's sitting right next to me listening to this lick on Silver Lining, this guitar lick. I'm in D, A, D, F sharp, A, D, this open tuning. and I'm playing this lick, and on the wall it says no smoking, big letters. Westerbridge just pulls out one of those black cigars, those thin that look like cigarettes, you know, cigarillos. He just ignores it, lights it up, sits down. He's listening to it, and then he looks over at me and goes, "That's a nifty little lick." And I was just like, "Thanks." Dude, that was it. That was all I needed. He told me it was a nifty little lick. So like making that record was something else, and being a part of that whole thing. And I guess what my point was, now the Steve that I am now, having been through all that, you really said it well when you said, I used to think, we have a joke that we still say it, and I say it to my friends right before we go on stage, or if I see somebody, I'll grab them, I'll go, remember, everything's riding on this one gig. Because I used to believe it. And there's a guy, do you know Jeff Berkeley? He's in a band called Berkeley Heart. He was a Kerrville New Folk winner years ago. Anyway, he produced my record, Folk Singer. He's a San Diego legend and a really great guy. And he's a good guitarist, but also a drummer and a percussion player. And so he was at this outdoor festival, and Jackson Browne was the headliner. And we haven't even gotten into Jackson Browne yet, but Jackson Browne's the headliner. And he sees my friend playing djembe on the little stage. You know, there's always a little stage at a festival, like the tweener stage. Jeff Berkeley's on the tweener stage playing djembe for a guy named Joel Raphael. Joel Raphael's a great songwriter. Jackson Browne sees Jeff Berkeley, and he summons one of his roadies to get him to play on the encore. Got a great pocket, you know, the djembe, the hippie drum. So Jeff Berkeley's like freaking out. David Crosby's standing on the side of the stage. The guy, Jackson Browne goes, "Let me bring out this young kid I saw over there. He's going to play with me on this song. Get it up for Jeff Berkeley." And as Jeff Berkeley's walking on the stage, he says his knees are shaking. And before he gets on stage, David Crosby grabs him. He said David Crosby is sitting there like a crow on the fence, and he sees him. He grabs his arm and he goes, "Hey, kid, remember, everything's riding on this one gig." And then he goes, "Don't fuck it up." And so we say it all the time to each other, because it's like the best philosopher ever who said it the best of all philosophers was the great Freddie Mercury, when he said, "Nothing really matters. Anyone can see. Nothing really matters." I mean, that, in 100 years, none of this matters. Nobody remembers us. Yet we get so stressed out about like our slot on the festival, or is this gonna work? Or my guitar was feeding back, or I forgot a verse. The more you do it and you get your 10,000 hours in, the more comfortable you get. And so this was a long-winded point of meeting younger musicians now. And I'm like, if you got a shot, I was just telling my friend Cassandra Lewis this in Florida last week. We were at a festival, and she's got like a big team behind her right now and a big label. And she was saying, you know, I don't know, they want me to do this. And I said, please don't mistake this for any kind of mansplaining or unasked for advice. But can I say something? She goes, "Please, I really want you to." I said, "Let me tell you this story." And I told her about Cooch. And I said how I was like kind of hard to work with, hard to deal with, and I was getting drunk all the time. And had I done it again, I could have written with so many people. I could have picked a more pop producer. I didn't know I had one shot at the title. I made a good sounding record, but I could have made it a bit more commercial, maybe. Who knows? It's not like I sit here and worry about it and lament it. I'm just saying I was giving her advice. And it wasn't unsolicited, but I did offer up unsolicited advice, and I got her permission. But I tell younger artists this a lot now. Man, if you got a big team around you, don't just take umbrage right away. Mull it over for 24 hours. And if you really feel strong in your beliefs, I believe, adhere to those beliefs. But you might not be right, or there might be a better way to do it. I mean, there's so many stumbling blocks along the way. I always said on my tombstone, I want it to say, "We need help with tickets. Can you give it one more push?"
I just got an email like that. What's
Yeah, because that's what I'm dealing with. And I talked to my agent, who I love, Adam Bauer. I've been with him for years. Love my booking agent. And I'll say, man, I have a hard time selling tickets here. He always says, you just need that one hit. Because he books Colin Hay. And Colin Hay has those Men at Work hits. And I go, I had a hit with You Were Meant For Me, but what I learned, I didn't sing it. So nobody gives a shit who co-wrote it. Jewel was the one who had the hit. They're not coming to see a guy who co-wrote it. They don't care. They don't care that I co-wrote songs with Billy Strings or Molly Tuttle. Sure, it's all resume fluff that you can add on to your list of accomplishments, but it doesn't. You know what makes me laugh? When I see people's bios or a newspaper previewing a show, they go, has opened for, we're all trying to hustle and sell some tickets, and some stuff's just out of our control. What's weird about having a song that becomes a hit is you don't know. You've heard stories of mailbox money. What's mailbox money? There's always this thing. Oh, he gets mailbox money. What's mailbox money? It's a check that comes in quarterly because you did something. You wrote a song. And for me, with You Were Meant For Me, it started getting used in shows like The Office. A wedding band would be playing it when somebody's getting married, and Steve Carell gets kicked out of the wedding. And he's singing the song outside. And my harmonics that I play on that song, do, 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 he sings and goes, do, 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 do. That to me was as good as being on Dr. Demento, because I just influenced television. So then it started getting on shows like American Idol and The Voice. And I remember it was on American Idol, and if it was played, I can't even remember what the amount is, but if it's played a certain amount of time, like over 16 seconds, I really don't know what I'm talking about, but there is a certain amount. And I remember it was on the show, and this is before you would put stuff on Facebook or anything, and my phone was ringing like crazy. It was like, turn on American Idol, your song's on. And I remember all I cared about was like, is it more than 16 seconds? And it was on for like 18 seconds. And I went, cha-ching, because I knew my BMI check was gonna come in next quarter, and it was gonna show American Idol, and there was gonna be thousands of dollars because somebody did a cover of it. And that song really, really helped me a lot. Like I can tell you, I've been very fortunate. I'm a lucky person. Yes, I worked hard and had dogged determination, but I was the recipient of timing and luck, and the fact that I wrote that with Jewel, and that she didn't let me Poltzerize it. And that song ended up paying a lot of my bills. And to this day, I still get a little bit of money from it, and it helped me finance my career. That song was a government assistance program that all my other songs have sucked off the tit of. Like, all my other songs sucked off the tit of You Were Meant For Me. You Were Meant For Me allowed me to write the most ludicrous, insane songs because I had that one song that paid the bills and allowed me to be the Lewis and Clark expedition and go out and find little gigs like the Blue Door in Oklahoma City and places that I could afford to get out to. I may not make a lot, but I was able to pay for my career. It was an endowment from the arts, almost like the gods said, give that guy one hit, but don't have him be the one who sings it because he'll be dead. Just give him enough so it's trickle down, just a little trickle down every quarter, and he makes a little bit of money. And my checks were coming in my mom and dad's house when that song broke because I didn't even have a regular address. And I was always gone. And my dad, the first time a big check came in for the Jewel hit, it was like $130,000 check. And my dad opened it up and he called me immediately. And he goes, this must be a mistake. I'll put it in my account. And he did. And I was like, do it. They won't track you down. Like, I didn't even understand. I had no idea. And then I would go, that's when I learned, just shut up, you idiot. You don't know anything. Food Stamp Love isn't the hit. Like,
I want people to know this. I want to say this. I've known you for about 25 years, and in that amount of time, I don't know anyone who's played more gigs than you. Maybe not as many, and these are not huge stadium gigs where you go to the people and you'll play the coffee house, the local bar, someone's house, a house party or whatever, and a lot of people would have just sat back and tried to, well, this is what I'm going to do, and hopefully the mailbox will last forever. But you went out and you did exactly what you want to do every day of your life that I know of since then, and people should know that and respect that, I think.
Well, I didn't care about the money.
Did I just make that awkward?
No, I liked what you said. No, I love what you just said. Here's the thing. The money from the You Were Meant For Me was like a joke to me. And I never really spent it or touched it. I drove an old truck. I never moved from where I was living. I didn't dress differently. I didn't buy heaps of guitars. I lived the same life I was living because all I wanted to do was play, and I'd played on the streets. I'd played everywhere. That's all I wanted to do. So when I had a booking agent named Raji from Austin, and Raji World was her company, and I remember she was like, there's a gig. It's at the Steel Penny Pub in San Angelo, Texas. It's going to take you 10 hours to get there because, you're in Baton Rouge tonight playing at some crappy little venue, the Bayou or something. It'll take you 10 hours. It's a Pass the Hat gig. It's a Tuesday night, but they love you. And they're fans of yours, and they'll feed you, and they'll give you a place to stay. And all I heard was, they like me? They love me? Oh man, they're such fans of yours. They'll be so stoked to see you. That's all I wanted. Okay, 10 hours, Pass the Hat, no guarantee. I'll go, see what happens. Because I was doing it, and I'm still doing it, because I get a joy of when I stand on stage and play. I would do it for free. It's the driving or whatever. They got to pay for the gas and the travel. But I still feel the exact same way I did back then. Yeah, I'll play the Steel Penny Pub in San Angelo, Texas with Susan Gibson. She wrote a Dixie Chicks hit, or now they're the Chicks, but she wrote a hit for them, and I get to hang out with her, and we both drank beers together and got completely hammered and told stories because we each had a hit song. And so the money didn't matter. It was the experiences. I wanted to be Dean Moriarty. I wanted to be that character out of On the Road. And I wanted the experiences of staying up late, hearing your song, me going, here's my newest one. Let's trade them back and forth. Having weird shit happen on stage where a guy in front of you just takes off his clothes and starts directing traffic like he's in an airplane or something. Like all these experiences are part and parcel of who I am, and why I still get off on playing these shows is because no two shows are alike. And so I have like hundreds and hundreds of songs and stories. I never write a set list. I don't even know what I'm going to say. I just have these stories at my command, and I riff on stuff, and it's like jazz. And so jazz artists love because they want to improvise. I'm improvising with words, and I'm making a song up on stage. Just the other day at a festival in Seymour, Indiana, I made up a song called Stormy, Trump, Hush Money, something like that, with a loop pedal. I didn't have it written down. I hadn't practiced it. It was just this idea, and I do it because it gives me a rush, and my body makes this adrenaline, and then I'm on a high. After that show, I'm like, yeah, I just wrote this song on stage. It's like a high wire act. So I'm hooked on the adrenaline. It's a drug, and now that I'm not doing cocaine and alcohol anymore, it's been 19 years, I still want that rush of a drug. And what I found out was by quitting alcohol and drugs, it made my brain more focused and more sharp. And I want to see what happens next. And so I'm the luckiest guy in the world to have been able to do this for so long and not have had a regular job, but I've worked harder than, I worked so hard at it. And it was because I kept saying yes to gigs, because I knew one gig would lead to another gig. It was like there were breadcrumbs, and I'd pick it up, and then I'd meet somebody like you along the way, and then somebody like you would say, hey, there's this cool place you can play. It's kind of weird. Oh, you got me already. What is it? It's in Iowa. It's in Pomeroy or something, and there's this guy that wears tie-dye and he loves the Dead, or there's some place along the way where they're going to feed you. Oh, they make the best biscuits. Oh, really? Afterwards, everybody sits and hangs out, and they feed you. And you're just like, this sounds cool. These are my people.